Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may happen to be in the world. Welcome to Talk About Your Community. This is my semi-weekly video live stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, talking about online community building, the offline elements of it, and everything in between, from the technologies that help to support great communities, such as today's conversation, and the people that make it possible to build great community experiences online. So we've had a couple of good previous episodes. If you haven't had a chance to check them in the back catalog, please go ahead and do so. Most recently, last week, we had Drew Krieger in from StreamSets, talking a little bit about employing empathy, even in highly technical developer communities, for community building. That was really more of a soft topic. This week we're going a little more into the technical side of things, and as part of that, I'm really excited and pleased to have as my guest today Tanya Dar from Grazidi Interactive and Search Unify, one of their amazing products in cognitive technologies. We're going to learn a little bit about what that means today, what those kinds of things are, what they can do, what the potential is for community managers and to prevent burnout around these kinds of topics. So we've got a wide-ranging conversation that we're going to go into today. Usually I try to keep these to about 30 minutes. We might go a bit over because there's a lot to talk about. So if you have to leave, totally understand. But as always, we really like to hear your comments and questions in the chat. We try to respond to everybody, and I know that there's a couple of folks from Grazidi who are on today who can jump in and answer any specific technical questions you may have along the way. But that being said, let me just get started by introducing my friend and colleague, Tanya Dar. Tanya Dar is a business analyst with Search Unify. She's absolutely fantastic. I've been on a couple of demos with her looking into the product. And I should disclose, I'm a partner of Grazidi Interactive and enthusiastic about the work and the services that they provide. So in full disclosure, I'm not paid. This is not a paid advertisement of any sort. This is because I like the product and I'm intrigued with what it can do. So Tanya, with that being said, welcome to the show. I am so glad you're able to join me today. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about Search Unify.
Thank you so much, Todd, for that introduction. I'm really glad to be here. And I'm even more excited for our audience as they'll get to learn about the key challenges and the insights on how technology can actually present itself as an aid to the community professionals.
That's wonderful. So Tanya, I always ask people to tell me their origin story. How did you end up in the world of business analysis? How did you end up at Grazidi Interactive? And what interests you in this space? Why do you do this?
Okay, so actually my curiosity actually built this path that I came to Search Unify. I was really curious about this technology solving problems. So I actually built that path myself to reach to Search Unify. If I talk about my previous experiences, I was working in a service-based model company. That organization was service-based, and I was working in the CRM space. I was solving problems there and creating solutions and implementing them with my engineering team. But because it was a services model, so we were closely knit with the support ecosystem. So there I got to know about the problems a support agent can actually face, be it a field agent or the ones that are working on desktops and resolving cases. I got an exposure to all of that, and if there is no concrete knowledge base or if the people are not able to access that knowledge on time, it could actually result in a very low CSAT. So all of that really intrigued me, and I myself started exploring and started looking because I thought if I was able to recognize this problem, this must be worldwide, and let's find out about this because I had that knack of solving problems. So while I was doing my research, I got to know about KCS, which is Knowledge Centered Service. So it is a methodology that actually preaches to build knowledge as an asset for your organization. And I also got introduced to cognitive technology, what they are doing, why did we actually move from the tabular era to the programmable era and now to the cognitive era. And interestingly, at that point of time, Search Unify was named as a strong leader by Forrester, so that caught my eye. And to my luck, they had an opportunity that was suiting my profile, so I just grabbed that role and came here. And since then, I'm really glad to be working with such smart brains who build such an amazing product. And their area of focus is actually support. So yeah, I really got to know about a lot of things that they are solving while they're building that product. So that has been my journey.
Well, I'm so glad that it brought you here for us to talk and to know each other a little bit. So what struck me, what you were talking about, is you were intrigued by problem solving, and I'm wondering, in your off hours, do you like puzzles or brain teaser kind of games?
I used to do that earlier. I do not find a lot of time now. And I've moved on to a little less time consuming hobbies or activities. So yeah, I used to do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you do to relax?
I have started to read books that are not related to technology or my work. So right now I'm reading about the Indian history. So that is what I'm focusing on, so that I get a good knowledge about my own country and a little bit of gardening here and there on weekends. So that is what I do in my free time.
I'm right there. I'm right there with you on gardening. I like to be able to step away from the technology and to be able to do something with my hands and kind of work the earth and grow things.
So
I mean, it's so satisfying to be able to do that. And I think this is a related point to what we're talking about today, because in particular, our topic today is around the ways that cognitive technologies can help the community manager. As we know, online community management, there's a strong danger of burnout, of just kind of being worn out from all of the repetitive sorts of tasks, the high stress nature of the work, the tendency for people to want to be online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and to expect responses. And as a community manager, you can end up feeling like you need to be there too. But as we know, that's not a good thing for our mental well-being, our mental health, and I think I was intrigued when I heard about the community helper element of Search Unify and what it can do. But let's maybe start by taking a step back. What do we mean by cognitive technologies? Can you help provide a layperson's definition of what it is and why it can help?
okay. So to be able to answer that question, I would first like to address another question, which is very important: that why did we need cognitive technology? What was the need to actually move from the programmable era to now a cognitive era? So that is very simple, and a very evident answer to that is that there is massive data explosion in modern organizations, and as much capable we are as humans, we cannot handle that data explosion. And the researchers tell us that data is doubling every 5 years, and we are not capable to handle all of that data on our own. So we needed that help from technology, and that is what cognitive technology does for us. So cognitive technology is nothing but opportunistic relationship between humans and machines, where machines start to learn from human experiences and they mimic human-like abilities using NLP or pattern recognition, and then they generate hypotheses and come out with relevant outcomes. So most of our tasks can be automated, and we can really focus on things that require human intelligence, like building strategy and things like that. So I hope that was a layman definition.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge help. And so, when I think about sort of the scaling of interaction with individuals in communities, I think that starts with onboarding. And
Absolutely.
getting as you're greeting new people in the community, the common wisdom is you need to greet each new person, especially when the community's new. You need to greet each new person, welcome them, maybe send them a private message welcoming them. And I've seen automations put in place for things like that. How does cognitive technology come into play with onboarding for new members?
So I think onboarding is a very crucial step for anybody who's coming to your community because, as we know, first impressions last. So if I am not onboarded correctly to a community, I might not come back and engage on that community. There are very high chances. So it is very important for the community managers to maintain that seamless onboarding for every member. But with the data increasing, with the resources increasing, and there are so many registrations that are coming up on your community, I think after pandemic it has really increased because everybody is wanting to actually connect on the online communities. So it can be really hectic for the community managers to provide the same experience to everybody and give that attention to every person that they are onboarding. So here, cognitive technology comes in, and there are various things that technology can do while it helps us. So the first thing that is very commercially adopted is a virtual agent chatbots that are actually intelligent enough to hold a human-like conversation with the person who's being onboarded because a cognitive technology is very iterative and stateful. So if I put in a question, it is capable of asking me more questions and piecing those things together to form the entire information and look for similar situations that might have occurred and then give me a great solution to it. And even if these situations do not occur in the system, it would at least lead me to a relevant content because chatbots that are intelligent are contextual. So they understand the context, the intent of the user. So not just the keyword matching, but they actually understand the intent as to what you're asking.
That's what I was going to say. So I had some very early experience back in my game development days
Okay.
where I had programmed a well, I didn't program it, but I did the conversational
Yeah.
creation
Mhm.
of a chatbot,
Okay.
and it was entirely based on keywords.
Ah,
But there was no nesting of like if it's this kind of keywords that are being that are coming up, then it's maybe one of these kinds of conversations and I need to ask these further questions. That's really kind of what we're getting into with the cognitive technology, that it begins to understand the kinds of things that people are asking for or asking about, and based on that context can ask more questions to get a little
absolutely.
closer to an answer. Is that right?
Yes. So it understands your intent on the basis of what you're putting in as an utterance in the chatbot. So it detects the intent, the context, and then comes up with an answer, which is why we call it intelligence. So it's like a human-like interface where you can actually feel that you're talking to a human being who's resolving your questions.
Yeah. So I can see a strong use case for this in support style communities where you've got a product or a service and somebody has questions about it. They've come into your community because they've got a question about something with the product or service that they don't understand, that they need support on. And so rather than going directly to a help ticket, this intelligent chatbot agent may be able to help resolve the problem or point them to the right article or FAQ so that it can be resolved in a timely fashion and not take up people hours to do it, right?
So I think this was one way, the intelligent chatbots, and then there are other ways as well. Like we know what content is actually required to onboard a person, and we can generate recommendation widgets, which are based on the persona of the user who is being onboarded. So it could be different for me, it could be different for you. So that is what cognitive technology does. It understands the persona of the user and it will personalize those recommendations for you, and not just the content personalization, but even the UI personalization, which actually engages the user more. So this is also one way cognitive tech helps us. And then of course you need access to knowledge, right? You need to learn and you need knowledge for that. So the knowledge should be present in one place for that. I should not be running here and there to different interfaces to be onboarded. I should get all the knowledge right there. So a federated search solution is what can help there to keep all your knowledge in one place, and that can be accessed right there on the community while you're being onboarded.
So that seems amazing. And And so just having everything in one place, I can see that being an immense help there. All the resources that I might need contextually already served up for me in a widget. And
Yeah.
this is something that ideally the technology provides either native to that platform, or like with Search Unify, it's something that plugs in to
Yeah.
other kinds of community platforms, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, Search Unify is actually a federated search solution which is based on cognitive technology and machine learning and an insights engine. And the platform natively integrates to the most popular community platforms like Salesforce, Khoros, Higher and there are many other platforms that it brings in content from, keeps it in one place, and makes the relevant content more discoverable, and also provides you insights as to what content usage is happening on your community, where are there, if there are any content gaps, and what is the behavior of your search users. So that is pretty much what Search Unify does.
That's great. And I'm sorry, did you mention, are there particular platforms that you've integrated Search Unify in?
Yeah, so we bring in data from almost 40 platforms,
Wow.
and we are supporting communities that are on Salesforce, Higher and Khoros. And we are obviously building roadmaps to include more platforms, seeing at the pace at which communities are growing.
That's amazing. And so basically any community that has some kind of open API, you could probably find a way to hook it in
Yeah,
as a usable tool. That's amazing. That's amazing. So I'm wondering if we can move on from onboarding to what I know that the CMX latest trends report said is the number one concern of community managers, which is how do you maintain engagement? How do you increase engagement in a platform? So, as you have an ever growing number of members, as the product complexity gets tougher and tougher, how do you how can CT, now I'm using the acronym, cognitive technologies, how can CT, I feel so fancy, how can it help maintain or increase engagement of your members in the community?
yeah. So I think just like you mentioned, the success of a community is measured by the level of engagement, and that engagement is really one of the most important KRAs of a community manager. But again, I like to mention that with the drastic increase in your data on the community, and there could be people from different locations join the community using different languages, it can get really difficult for the community manager to provide that right answer to that person on right time. So that could actually hit your engagement level. But again, like cognitive technology, what it does is it analyzes the user's behavior. So based on your previous searches or the kind of content that you've browsed through before, or people like you who also refer to the same content or have asked similar questions. So by analyzing all of that, it brings in the most relevant results for you. So if you perform a search, it will give you the best results that are suited for you. So this is one way where cognitive technology would help. And of course, chatbots are available 24/7 for that assistance. So yeah, these are the two ways.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it's a great opportunity, and really, you know, helping with things like language differences and different kinds of geographies. The chatbot can bridge some of those things in ways that maybe the community manager can't,
Yeah.
um, and understanding how to interact best with people where they happen to be. That's really amazing. What about how can AI help with personalization at scale? What is it more kind of recommendation engine, kinds of content? How else does that work?
Yeah. So I think, as you all know, hyper personalization is the new black. So be it people who are wanting to engage with your community or the ones who are already present on your community, everybody would like to see the content in a way that they understand better or they like it. So that is a very important point that could help increase engagement. So I think AI is the way to go about it because AI helps you personalize the content, the UI, based on again the a user's history, what they like to read, from where they like to read, what are the common facets that they use while they're reading, or what is the common kind of content they use. And based on all of that, it brings in the best data, personalized data for you, and not just personalization in terms of content, but even UI, like we see on e-commerce sites, because that again helps you engage more. So I think personalization and actually tailoring the community experience for somebody by their preferences would build that trust and loyalty with your customers. So it is very important that you give them that personalized experience, you give them that attention. So yeah, cognitive technology is there for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the utility of if I am a company that has multiple products that I'm servicing within an enterprise, and uh, and if I've got if I'm the customer coming in and I'm only subscribing or using 3 or 4 out of the dozen or more products that are there, and I'm asking a question about that, you're telling me that the technology could recognize or be able to tell based on my persona or my, whatever my profile is, these are the platforms to which I've subscribed, and so it's going to give me relevant answers based on those
Yes.
platforms without me even really having to mention that
Yeah.
I'm using those particular products.
Yeah. Yeah, that is what we mean by cognitive, right? Like we are humans, we are cognitive, we see, we learn, and then we use that learning in similar situations. So that is how cognitive technology works. And even so, if our profiles are similar, if you are searching for same things that I search and you find a certain result important and you click on it, you convert that result, that will also get recommended to me because we have same personas. So cognitive technology is intelligent enough to understand all of that. So yeah, pretty much a 360 kind of help.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a deeper question about this, and I don't necessarily expect that you have the answer to it. But anything that I've read about machine learning,
Mhm.
um, the ability for that artificial intelligence to improve over time, um, it's always, I've always heard it. Well, it could take billions of interactions to really understand and improve those things. Like if it needs to recognize what a cat looks like, it needs to look at billions of examples of cats to understand what are the characteristics of that and to be able to kind of present that back to me as something that I would recognize as a cat. Um, has the machine learning improved that much? Because I know there are a lot of things now that are capable. You can do deep fakes, you can do all kinds of really interesting things with AI to even sort of simulate human faces now. Are there already sort of libraries of data and information that you plug in ahead of time that has that learning sort of built in, or what's baked into that? I feel like you're maybe closer to that issue than I am, which is the reason I'm asking the question.
Yeah, yeah. This is true that cognitive technology actually learns from experiences. It needs experiences to learn, and with the data coming in, cognitive technology needs to be very flexible and adaptive as well. So that if there is new data coming in, it should be able to refine that data and even combine both the data and still come up with the best solutions for it. So yes, we do build models, machine learning models, and use AI so that we can paste that up, and we do not require a lot of input from the users. We do build models that can actually help pasting that up. But yeah, for being able to technically answer this, I'll have to ask my engineering team to get back to your audience and to you. And this
Well,
is what.
I think one of the, and that's totally fair response. I think one of the things that you and I had talked about doing was maybe doing another longer session, maybe something up on YouTube as a demo of what the entire intelligent search process looks like. And
Yeah.
maybe if we have an engineer on with us, he or she can explain, what that looks like in terms of what machine learning, how that happens, on the back end, and how many interactions that takes to actually start shaping some of those responses over time. That would be really interesting to learn about. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, please drop a comment into the stream. or message me privately. And even if you see this on the replay, because I don't know, I think we were maybe thinking that might even be a month out or something like that. It might be a little, because we have to coordinate schedules and everything to make that happen. But I would really like to do that. And I'm eager to see a platform like this in action, to see how it might, work particularly with some of the communities that I consult with. It might be very interesting to see. So tell me a little bit about how intelligent applications like Community Helper specifically can help scale capacity of community management over time. As the community gets bigger, it obviously takes a lot more effort and head count. So you have to grow your community management team. But rather than just throwing more people at the problem, and I think we're past the days where we're threatened to think AI is going to ever replace people entirely. It's more of a partnership between intelligent systems and intelligent people to make these things work. But how do they work together? What are some ways that we can improve that scaling of customer interactions?
So what these apps like Community Helper does is that it helps you scale while remaining lean on your operational costs. Like you just mentioned that we cannot keep increasing our headcount as and when there are many more people registering on your community. That is not the right way to go about it, at least not in this era. So then we have applications like Community Helper, which do not let your users feel that sense of detachment because you're not responding to them on time, they're not getting answers on time, and that drops your engagement level. We don't want that to happen. So Community Helper was built on an idea uh, that we could foster communities that never cease to answer or to engage. So this was the idea of building Community Helper. And what Community Helper exactly does is it scans through all your discussions, your ideas on the community that do not have a reply posted on them. So it is essential that you give replies to your community users on time. And your users may be present in different locations, working in different time zones, and you cannot have people sitting responding to them always. So Community Helper would actually scan those discussions and post a first response that is a personalized response for that person. So you can just create a template, and that is how it will post it on the community. And the best part is that it does not just give the sense of acknowledgement to that user, oh, that somebody is listening to me, but it also takes them to the relevant content. So if my query is around something let's say around Salesforce platform or something like that, it'll give me the top 5 results or the top 5 content links that are linked to that query. So I'll have that information to feed on, and who knows that I can actually get satisfied with that information right there, and that discussion closes on that point. So that is what Community Helper does. It scans through all your posts.
So, I've been thinking about this. So, what if one of my community goals is to encourage members of the community to engage in peer support? So
Mhm.
I don't want the AI bot to auto respond to things right away. Can I set a delay on that, or set it to trigger only like after a certain amount of time that nobody has answered this given question?
Yep. So that is totally under your control. You can actually set the response time, be it 1 minute or 24 hours or 15 hours, whatever is suitable for your community to grow. So that is totally customizable, and that is just a button click. You just select a value, and that is how it will work.
Okay. And sometimes, so there are certain companies that I've worked with in the past that have style or language requirements around the kinds of public responses that they give. They talk about their brand in certain ways. There's certain kinds of words they avoid. Are those things that I can customize in terms of the automated responses or the ways that the things are set up for the cognitive technology?
Yep. So absolutely, that is with you. The control is totally with the admin or the community manager. They can personalize that template, and not just one template. You can create infinite templates because you don't want the people to know that a bot is responding to you. So there will be different responses posted to the community posts basis to the template selection the system does. So every post would not have a similar answer or a similar pattern of answering that question. We'll have different templates posted on different posts. So that is totally customizable. You can configure those templates, put in what is relevant as per your branding, and everything can be done.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I know that there's so much potential for AI, kind of managing, rewriting language, or even like there are some very interesting there's some very interesting AI tools out there for even blog writing right now, where you can plug in some headings or drop in a paragraph, and it can recast it for you in totally
Absolutely.
different words, right? That amazing. So I'd like to spend a few minutes. I know we're kind of at the 30-minute mark here, so if anybody's got a drop, please tune in for the rest of this. But I would absolutely like to talk a little bit about how you can frame the return on investment for using these platforms. I don't know what the cost is for searching if I have a ballpark idea. There's obviously integration, that needs to happen with this. There's customization. I think there's some professional services involved with figuring out and training people how to use the tool in a way that's going to be effective. But as you're coming back to executive leaders and you start talking about the results of what a C of what a CT tool can bring to a community. I wonder how that's been framed, or how it could be framed. And if you have any examples, you don't need to name names of companies, but can you talk a little bit about how that's been communicated with some of your customers and your experience so far?
Yeah. So I think this is a very important parameter that should be talked about today because while you're building a community, the operational costs are as such very high, and then you ask for additional tools to be able to make that community a success. So you really need to prove that value of investing money on those tools. And I think the first way that is quite evident is that you're resolving L1 tickets already. Why, if your search is working perfectly, you're resolving so many queries via your search or your chat bot for that matter, or even your community helper is helping you. So a lot of support costs are reduced there. And for our customers, if I talk about them, their shining moments have been via our actionable insights and our deep data analytics. So to be able to prove that ROI, you need numbers, and those numbers come via our analytics. So the traffic on your community, how well your data is performing on the community, the number of people who are engaging with that content. So everything is captured via our deep data analytics that comes through Search Unify, and of 50% case deflection using our search solution and our applications. So yeah, to get that seat on the table, you really need to prove that your strategy actually worked out of using these applications, and that comes through our actionable insights and our deep data analytics. Those numbers are provided right from there.
That's amazing, and it's so important to be able to quantify what that success looks like. Have you had any? Have you been on any customer meetings where they were just so surprised and blown away by the effect that it could have? I'm curious any kind of candid comments that you've heard along the way.
Just the story that I told you, the shining moment, that is one of the things that our customer told us, that I was actually able to tell them. I was not initially able to convince them that we need tools for a community. And now I was able to sit on the table and actually tell them that this is the value that came in with those tools. And this is why our community is successful right now. So
That's amazing. I mean, I can see so many potentials, for this as community management continues to evolve as a profession. The kinds of things outside of just insights about customer behaviors and preferences and the kinds of questions they ask, and deflecting uh, trouble tickets and cases. I mean, the potential for improving products, capturing that information, ensuring that your employees are highly engaged. If it's an internal kind of community, setup, understanding new ideas, new product ideas, new services ideas through crowdsourcing kinds of things. I could see how CT might have an impact on any of these sorts of areas. So I can't imagine going forward without using some of these tools in the future.
Yes, that's true.
So I kind of think about the future of AI and community management hand in hand. The kinds of things that it can do around removing spam, or recognizing, even like as we start moving into the Web3 world, recognizing what kinds of NFTs you might hold in your wallet that you use to authenticate with a community, and be able to reward behaviors automatically for key contributions, answering questions, removing spam, welcoming newcomers. Like, suddenly we can track signals within a community to reward the very best in the kinds of things we would like to see people doing in those spaces. We can shine a light on what's really good about being involved in and active within a community, and even things like I'm wondering if you guys have been thinking about sort of scanning content within a discussion thread, and having the AI be able to summarize the key points and pull out what's the most salient stuff. Because I think something that I run into a lot with, especially with busy professionals in communities of practice, is they don't necessarily have time for a long read right now. Like, they want, give me the gist, I'll dive in deeper later if I have time or if I've got sufficient interest. But they want the summary block, and that's often a very time-intensive thing for a community manager to absorb an entire thread of discussion and summarize it. It's high value to be able to do something like that. But if AI can pull those things out and post and pin a summary of that discussion at the top, wow, what a game changer for something like that.
So we are actually doing, so that is what we do via our search. We bring in some summarized content or facts while we show those rich snippets. So we do it, but for discussions, pinning those summarized content, yeah, that could be one thing that can be added to our roadmap. That is pretty interesting. And the things like that, things that you mentioned are pretty much on our roadmap, and the future holds a lot of things that we are planning to do with our products. And one thing that I would like to tell is that because chatbots have become such a commercial use case, we decided to actually decouple that application from Searchify and launch it as a standalone product. So we'll be soon launching Suva, which is Searchify's virtual agent, and probably in July it will be available to everybody, because we saw that it's being really adopted and it is really solving a lot of use cases. And in terms of community helper, if I talk about that, so we have a long list of features that we've planned, from spam detection, as you mentioned, to be able to identify your brand advocates. So it is not possible for the community manager to actually scan through everything that is happening on the community, and they would not know which is the right person to become their brand advocate. So technology can do that for you. They can analyze the most frequent discussions a person is doing, how well he's engaging on the community, and identify that this person can actually be your brand advocate. And similarly, what is the buzz around on the community? What are people really talking about, or what are people really seeking knowledge about? You can actually host webinars on that, or have events created for that, or campaigns run for it. All of that can be identified by the technology. And if I talk about engagement, We are also wanting to build features where you can tag posts and route them to the right champion, so the answers are provided to that person on time.
I
So
love
this is
that. That's great. Yeah.
what planned for community helper. Yeah.
Yeah, so great. And I mean, we haven't even really scratched the surface because there's so many other things, to talk about in terms of these tools. We haven't touched upon sentiment analysis, and being able to read the room, basically of whether people like or upset about a topic, and to respond contextually
Exactly.
based on that. So a part of moderation is sort of reading the temperature of a group of people if they are happy or unhappy about a product or service. And then, like, another huge time waster, I think, for a lot of community managers is if their system is set up in such a way that they have to categorize or tag posts so that they're more easily searchable. Having the intelligent agent be able to automatically classify the kinds of content and posts, such a huge time saver and sanity saver for community managers everywhere to be able to do something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tanya, I see we 42 minutes have flown by very quickly here, and I know that there's so much to this topic. Emerging technologies are a huge area of interest for me, and I'm so grateful for you to be willing to come on and share your experiences with your specific platform that Search Unify that you provide, but just to talk more in general about these technologies and what they can do. I hope that we'll get a chance to do the deep dive demo sometime this summer. Uh, and in the meantime, if anybody's interested in learning more or having a direct demo, kind of seeing what the community helper is about, and Search Unify in general, what's the best way to get in touch or to learn more about that?
So you can actually reach out to me, and I'm hoping that my marketing team would put some link in the comment box, so you can reach out to us via that link as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanya, and thank you to everybody who has tuned in today, whether it was on the live stream or on the replay. I am honored that you decided to spend a little bit of time with us talking about this topic. We get into technical and operational topics all the time on Talk About Your Community. We will be scheduling some more guests here in the near future. As summer has come on, consulting has gotten a little bit busy for me, so there may be another week or two before I have something posted up for the next talk. But I think my next guest is going to be my friend and colleague Darren Guff, who runs Island 23 out of the UK. He and I have been longtime collaborators going back to our days at Feverbee, and I hope you'll join me for that as well. But in the meantime, we're heading into the weekend, and I would be remiss if I did not remind you to step away from the computer, spend a little time outdoors, get your hands in the soil, grow something, build something, make something, find a way to relax and recharge yourself. And I'll see you again here online next week. Tanya, thanks again for joining me today. Hope to see you again soon.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And goodbye, everybody.